Hey there, Knicks fans. You hear us talking about fair play, earning fan cash on your bets, even sweepstakes to win more fan cash. But now, Fanatic Sportsbook has introduced something that is changing the game. It's a brand new way to parlay called squad bets. Just build your custom squad, pick your market, points, rebounds, assists, whatever, and then set your target. It could be 40, 50, 60, or even 70 plus. Then sit back and watch your squad go to work with live tracking throughout the action. And the best part is, if one player doesn't perform, the rest of your squad can pick up the slack. So your bet stays alive all the way to the very end. Track it live, cash out whenever you want. Squad bets, only at Fanatic Sportsbook. Parlays, hit different here. All right. Welcome to the Knicks Film School Postgame Show presented by Fanatic Sportsbook. Tough loss. Hard-fought game, which featured some good stuff, which featured some not good stuff that we're going to talk about. And, I think which reinforced the prevailing theory throughout the league that we may have gotten away from for periods of time when they were scuffling in the middle of the season, but that the Oklahoma City are a machine and they are not unbeatable. Maybe they wouldn't be as close to unbeatable as they are if they didn't play every game 8-on-5, but they do. So that helps, and it certainly helps give them an edge that they honestly really don't need. But they have it anyway. They're really good. The Knicks are good. And tonight, at times, they were very good. But as, we are reminded yet again, and we've unfortunately been reminded many times throughout the course of the season, it's not a perfect team. And, unfortunately, when they face a team like OKC, they kind of need to play perfect to win. And I know that's not the hot take to start this post game that I, maybe should go to, but look, the Knicks again, they're really good. They're really good. And tonight they were beaten by a better team because they didn't play as well as they needed to. It's as simple as that. I want to start off though, not talking about the game, but talking about Deuce McBride, who we have been waiting for 2 months to get back, as by all accounts fought like hell to get back on the court. Finally did make it back on the court tonight. Played all of 11 minutes, and then because he's Deuce and because he doesn't know how to go any other speed other than 100 miles an hour when he's out on the floor, he dives for a loose ball and appeared to hurt something in his groin thigh area. Obviously, we don't have any update. I just hope this isn't it for Deuce McBride. And it's not even about the Knicks or their title chances or anything like that. I honestly don't really care. Just there's no one that works harder than him behind the scenes, on the court. There's no one who brings a better mentality into the locker room. There's no one who brings a better mentality on the court. And there's no one, who there have been better players to come through this organization over the last 5-6 years than Deuce McBride. But in terms of, if you're a longtime Knicks fan and you have certain ideals that you demand or want to see from the players that you root for, no one embodies those ideals better than Deuce McBride. Not a single person who has come through here, Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart included. I just can't say enough about McBride, and I just hope he's okay, and I hope this isn't the last that we've seen of him this year, because that would be really tough. Okay, get that out of the way. Let's talk about the game. I think the most obviously frustrating part of this game is that you shot 43% from deep on and on like decent-ish volume, like 35 threes is not a ton of threes, but it's a good enough volume against this Thunder team. And you got maybe the best Josh Hart three-point shooting night of the year, if not the best, like one of the 2 or 3 best. And you weren't able to capitalize on it. I think if you're like big picture, zoom out, that's the overarching thing with the game. And you're like, well, how is it that they took a bunch of threes, or they took enough threes and they made a healthy portion of those threes? So that's like a great sign for the offense. And like Brunson was like pretty good, 32 points on 22 shots against this Thunder defense. It's pretty good. I know it wasn't perfect. I know he missed a couple that you normally expect to see him go down. I know he missed a couple free throws there. But like Brunson was pretty good. They made the threes. Like, you look up and down the roster at like other guys who had opportunities. Mikal Bridges, a good shooting night. We'll get to Cat. Like OG was the only guy who kind of like among the starters, at least, who didn't shoot a strong percentage from the field. And even he ended up with 10 points on 9 shots. So it's like, it's not killing you there because he was aggressive and he got to the line. So how do they only score 100 points? And they score 100 points because, and I'm kind of going to go back to the theme of the postgame show from the Charlotte game, when I was like, the Knicks did, like, they shot really well in that game, right? They did some things really well, and yet you looked up and they didn't have a ton of points, and you looked at certain statistical indicators, and it's like, oh, they played the exact game that Charlotte wanted them to play. Well, fast forward to tonight, and yeah, the Knicks shot 43% from 3, but they also only shot 44% overall, which means they shot barely better than 43% from 2-point range. And that is what the Thunder want you to do. This is how they defend. They will fight like hell to get back out on shooters, which is why you don't really see very many like wide open shots from people against the Thunder, unless it's intentional, like some of the Hart ones, the Alvarado attempts, like those are intentional. Everything else, it's like there's someone flying out, and it gives you this feeling as a team trying to topple this defense that like, oh my God, we got to be perfect. Well, tonight the Knicks almost were from 3-point range, and that is because they give you nothing, and I mean nothing, inside the arc. And if there is a conjoining piece to this is a frustrating game to lose because they shot 43% from deep, I will say the other piece of that is, even considering how good the Thunder's defense is, and it is really freaking good, I thought the Knicks just had some 2-point shots tonight that they should have made and that they didn't. And part of the philosophy behind this team, behind assembling this starting 5, is that you assembled all of this collective skill, and yet there were a lot of 2-point shots. And I know I just said all the starters outside of OG like shot good percentages. Like OG, go look at his misses. They were all inside the restricted area. Like Brunson had a couple that you were like, man. And am I asking, and again, we'll get to Cat. But like Jordan Clarkson, this was a night the Knicks couldn't afford for Jordan Clarkson to go 1 of 6 from the field. And he had some good looks there. It's not a night that the Knicks could afforded for Jose Alvarado to go 3 of 10, including 1 of 6 from inside the arc. And like those were all like pretty close range floater stuff. Deuce, I'm not gonna blame Deuce first game back, but he didn't make a shot, but they were all from 3. But like this is kind of goes back to what I opened the show with, and I opened the show with that for a reason. Against this Thunder team, you kind of feel like you need to be perfect, where it's like, okay, we hit above 40% from 3, check. We make all the 2-point shots we're supposed to make, check. They didn't check that second box tonight. And the third box that you kind of have to check is we can't get killed in the turnover battle. And the Knicks were doing pretty good in that respect for most of the game. And then you look up at the end of the night, and they have 19 turnovers. Now, they only conceded 19 points off of those 19 turnovers, which is like against this Thunder team is actually not horrible, or against any team. Like if you concede the same amount of points as the turnovers you gave up, it's like you've done okay. But 19 turnovers is not okay. There is no universe where 19 turnovers is okay, even against this Thunder team. You want to tell me 14, 15, 16? And again, it wasn't any one person. I mean, we could look down, like Brunson had 4. That's a lot for him. Cat had 4. I keep saying we're going to get the Cat, but we're going to get the Cat. I feel like I'm harping on this guy, but Jose Alvarado, he can't turn the ball over 4 times in 17 minutes, my guy. That's not good enough. And I tweeted out during the game that, like, it was nice to see that 3 go down because they're starting to treat him like Josh Hart. Benji tweeted something about this the other day. And I was like, that's important because it feels like his rotation spot has been getting tenuous. Well, I think it got even more tenuous after tonight. Now, we'll see, what happens with Deuce, but, Shaman's coming back. So, whatever. I don't want to waste too much time on Alvarado. I didn't think he had a good game. So, you needed to check basically all those boxes. You checked one of them. You didn't check the other 2. And then the rest of the game, like, look, you give up 111 points to the Thunder, you're going to sign for that. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of talk about the refs tonight. It's every game against the Thunder. And it is what it is. I had a rant about it on the last show because I thought the non-charge call on SGA was absolutely a momentum shifter. I didn't think there was like one momentum shifting call in this game, but like, yeah, the Thunder got to the line a bunch of times and it's what they do. It's what SGA does. He scores 30 points on a night. He shot 8 of 18 from the field because he went 13 for 16 from the free throw line. And it wasn't just him too. Jalen Williams, 7 free throw attempts, Chet Holmgren, 7 free throw attempts. Like, so this is just what they do. If anybody wants to rant and rave about it. I'm here for it. I'm not going to disagree with you. I just personally don't have the energy to yell and scream about the officiating and the free throw stuff with the Thunder tonight. And I actually kind of want to flip it around as a compliment and say, for the Knicks to only give up 111 points on a night where the Thunder did get to the free throw line 38 times, that's a 3 and an 8. Jesus Christ. It's a lot of fucking free throws. Maybe I will find it in my heart to rant and rave a little bit. So on a night when they shot all those free throws to only give up 111 points, I thought the Knicks defended, for the most part, really well tonight. There were a couple of breakdowns where someone sprung for a 3, but by and large, I thought the Knicks' activity level, their attention to detail, their compete level on screens, on closeouts, the help, I thought, for the most part, was good. It was timely. I thought, again, for the most part, I keep kind of burying the lead, but for the most part, I thought they were connected. I thought they communicated. All of those things, as Mark is pointing out, shout out to Mark on the 1s and 2s. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 16 free throws. The Knicks as a team, 17 free throws. I mean, it is what it is. But I thought, if you're looking for the real silver lining of this game, it's, I think, the Knicks defense. Because I was really impressed by it. Now, I've said for the most part a few times tonight, how do I put this? Man, rooting for Karl Anthony Towns, I imagine it is what being an alcoholic must be like, because no matter how long you stay dry, as I understand it, every time you go to a meeting, you open it with, "Hi, I'm so-and-so and I'm an alcoholic." And I'm like, it doesn't matter how long I can, feel good about how Karl Anthony Towns is playing, how much I am encouraged by his play, how much I appreciate his play, how much I admire his good efforts. At the end of the day, I still have to sit up here and say, "Hi, my name is Jonathan Macri, and I'm a Karl Anthony Towns skeptic." And 2 games like this, between the Hornets game and this game, it's, I'm right back off the wagon. And I appreciate Cat for showing up and participating in the basketball contest in the fourth quarter. That was great. And he reminded you why he is paid what he is paid and why he has the resume that he has and the accolades and everything else. I needed more And I needed it earlier tonight because all the and the worst fucking part of it, you want to talk about like adding insult to injury. I have to listen to fucking Reggie Miller point out something that I can't even disagree about. Where he's talking about, I hate to be a dead horse, but here's Cat again in the action, or not in the action, as it were. Whether it was the weak side help that wasn't there, or just kind of the non-compete level. And I thought for as great as he was, and look, it's going to sound ridiculous, and I'm sure you want to kill me for it, kill me for it. Man ends up with 18 rebounds. A lot of those were in the fourth quarter, but he had a decent amount of rebounds, through the first three quarters. I didn't think he was good on the glass through 3 quarters of this game. I didn't think his physicality was good enough on the glass through the first 3 quarters of this game. And we need to just come to an agreement on how we are going to discuss the fact that he has these game. Like, I'm all for convenient narratives, but you can't pick and choose when to go with the convenient narrative, because for the last, March 29th? So up until the Hornets game, for the previous 6 weeks, you watch Karl-Anthony Towns and you pick any 6-week stretch from last year, or for that matter, any 6-week stretch when he was in Minnesota, and it doesn't look any different. There's no role is different. There's no being asked to sacrifice. That was just Cat balling because he felt confident, and he was engaged, and he was doing all the things that we know he could do. But now, 8 shots against the Thunder, or 8 shots against the Hornets, and now we had, I don't know how many. What did he have? 4 shots in the first 3 quarters of this game, 3, 4, whatever the hell it was. And now it's like, we're back with the, what I'm being asked to do, and it's sacrifice, and this and that, and yada yada yada. Come on, could we just stop with the nonsense? Like, this is a player that disappears sometimes, and it is incredibly frustrating that he does this. But the fact that this has been a year-long fakakta, discussion point. It was always nonsense, and to pull it out. And it's funny because they're laughing about it kind of in the broadcast booth, if you could read between the lines, whatever. So I needed a little bit more from Cat. As far as everything else, like, I thought they defended SGA as well as SGA could be defended. I liked Hart, the look of Hart guarding him, but more than anything, I like how they switch it up. I like that there were a lot of different defenders that took a turn. I like that OG took a turn. Mikal Bridges took a turn. Josh Hart took a turn. Deuce McBride obviously got a turn. It was nice to see him get a stop in his first defensive possession. That was pretty cool. Clarkson took a turn. I think Alvarado may have had one defensive possession on him. Man, I'm talking about falling off of wagons. Not very high in the Alvarado experience right now. So lots of different looks for SGA, and I thought that worked for the most part. So that was good. I thought the Knicks on the glass tonight, for the most part, like, they competed in a way that they did not compete against the Charlotte Hornets. 41 rebounds for the Knicks, 39 rebounds for the Thunder. The part that you don't love is, you got 15 offensive boards as a Knicks team, but you also gave up 12 offensive rebounds. And that's one of those areas, like, again, if you want to make that another box that needs to be checked against this Thunder team to beat them, you got to win the offensive. You got to, like, double them up on the offensive glass. You can't win it by a marginal degree. You have to really, really hammer them on the offensive glass. And again, the Knicks didn't do that tonight. As far as other individual performances, we talked about OG had an off night from the field. I'm unfortunately not really ever surprised when OG doesn't do well in the restricted area, when he is shooting on the move against physical against contact. I love that he's willing, and he's willing to put his head down. He's willing to put the ball. And look, to his credit, got to the line early. So that's how you end up with the points that you end up with. But, like, he just doesn't have great touch through contact. It is what it is. It's a It's a little bit of a fly in the ointment in his game, but it is one of those things that like it's like, again, we're not talking about a bad basketball team. I'm not being negative because I think the Knicks stink or because the Knicks aren't, going to get out of the first round or any of that. We're talking about competing with the best of the best. We're talking about scaling the mountaintop. We're talking about winning a championship. That's what this team was assembled to do, to win a championship. So when I'm lamenting boxes that weren't checked and I'm not maybe spending as much time on the good things, there's a reason I'm doing that. It's because the standard is here. It's not here. It's not here. It's here. And so it's like OG Anunoby, great player in all these different respects. But if you force him to put the ball on the floor, he doesn't usually pass on drives all that well. And if you get contact at the rim, it's usually going to end pretty well for you. So that was unfortunate. I thought Josh Hart played I don't want to say a brilliant game. I think that's a little bit strong. I think he played a very good game. It's great to see him hit shots. It's great to see him shoot with confidence. Mikal Bridges is a guy I probably should have spent more time on. He kind of got lost a little bit down the stretch of the game. I thought this is the best game he's played in, I don't know, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it's been. I thought Mikal was awesome. And I thought and he actually, that doesn't really even do it justice enough because I think you could argue he was the Knicks' best player in the first half, even with Josh Hart making all the threes that he made. I thought his compete level and his attention, everything on the defensive end, his activity on the defensive end was like, hey, there's the guy worth giving up 5 first-round picks for. Like, that's how good of a game I thought Mikal Bridges played for the most part, for most of it. And even like down the stretch, the offense didn't really find him, but like that's a more valid excuse for Mikal Bridges, in fairness. And I thought he did well with his opportunities. And again, defensively, he was just on point. So that was great. Brunson, I mean, look, he had 32 points on 22 shots against the Thunder. I thought it was a nice game from Brunson, even with the 5-4 assist to turnover ratio. Did what he could, needed to do a little bit more. And then, the bench, I guess we could end with that. I look, I don't want to forecast. I feel uncomfortable. It makes me actually literally a little queasy forecasting like what's going to happen moving forward and who might or might not be available. Look, Clarkson didn't have a great game. I still have faith in Jordan Clarkson moving forward. Mitch, he had a couple of field goal attempts that again, not to pick nits, but like you needed a lot of stuff to go right tonight. But 18 minutes, he was good in his 18 minutes. And then Alvarado's the other guy. But now Diawara, he got in for a couple minutes. He had a nice pass to Mitch, actually, that Mitch should have converted, and he didn't. So you still got Muhammad there. You got Shamet coming back. I still think they have enough off the bench. I do. Obviously, if they're without McBride for any more period of time, it will continue to hurt, just like it has hurt for the last 2 months. But I don't. Yeah, I literally can't even talk about it because I'm gonna get sick to my stomach. All right, that's enough. We should probably mention Boston won tonight. Made quick work of Charlotte. I should note I had that game on while I was watching the Knicks game, and no Jaylen Brown. Didn't matter. I don't want to say Boston locked up the 2 seed tonight. I think that's probably a little bit much. But like you were looking at the schedule and you were looking at like what needed to happen for the Knicks to catch Boston in this thing. Celtics have a game coming up in Atlanta, then a game in Miami. Miami lost to the Pacers, by the way, tonight. And then, they got a game in Milwaukee. Milwaukee's probably playing as badly as any team in the league right now, other than, I guess, maybe Washington. Toronto won by 8,000 points tonight. They had a 31-0 run against the Magic. And then Charlotte, New York, New Orleans, Orlando might be letting go of the rope. So, like, there's some more losses on the schedule, maybe, for Boston, I would assume, unless they're just going to go undefeated the rest of the year, which wouldn't shock me. And then, the Knicks, look, at Houston, they won tonight by a lot against New Orleans. We're playing pretty well. At Memphis, Chicago home, at Atlanta, and then Boston, Toronto, Charlotte. Can they win the next 4 going into that Boston game? Could Boston lose a game? Yeah, all of these things are possible. So I don't want to say that the race for the 2 seed is over, but you're now 3 back in the loss column. So it's like you need, needless to say, now the Boston game, which I always thought it was going to be a must win anyway, now it is. It really is a must win. But if you want to keep hope alive for the 2 seed, I would say you probably need to win these next 4 going into Boston and hope that Boston loses one of either their next game in Atlanta, either Toronto or Charlotte at home, but I don't know. That's a lot to add. So I don't know. It's an uphill climb. It's an uphill climb. It felt like the Knicks needed to get one of these 2, and they didn't. So here we are. Okay, let's go check in on our best bets. Best bets of the night, presented, of course, by Fanatic Sportsbook. We're again, I keep saying it. We're getting close. We were right there for a parlay win. Karl Anthony Towns easily cleared 11 rebounds. Jalen Brunson easily cleared 25 points. Andrew had me on as the pregame podcast ahead of this game. And of course, he's the voice of reason. I'm the voice of skepticism. And it did not surprise me that Andrew Claudio took Knicks getting 8.5 points. You look at it, 8.5. It's a lot of points. And it was the right amount of points, it turns out, because they did not cover. We go 2 for 3. But here's the good news. As we've been doing this for the last couple weeks now, some enterprising fellow out there or gal who put at least $10 down on our parlay is going to be very happy camper, because Fanatics is giving away $100 in fan cash to one lucky person who bets, again, at least $10 on the Knicks Film School official Bets parlay. So we're going to be doing, This is game 75. So we're going to be doing 7 more of these in the regular season. So if you haven't gotten in on the action, get in on it. And if you're one of the people who has gotten $100 in fan cash, I've said it the last few post games, I'll say it again. Tag us on social media so we know that you're taking advantage of the fine folks at Fanatic Sportsbook. Okay, that's our best bets. And I think that's it. Move on to whatever people want to talk about. I imagine, I don't know what the post game is going to be like tonight. Probably be some ref stuff. 2 losses in a row. Probably not going to be a ton of amazing vibes, but we'll see. Always happy to be surprised. Michael Aaron starts us off with Lou Dork. Perfect way to start, Michael. I could not have started it off any better myself. Much appreciated. Nikki Double G. Dagnall gets paid a lot to have the worst haircut in the NBA. That's fantastic. Yeah, man. He's either going to Supercuts, or he's got one of those home haircut jobs. I don't know, but that's like, man, that's rough. I don't even know what that reminds me of. Nothing good. But look, he's an NBA champion. He's probably going to be an NBA champion again in about 2 months. So he could have whatever fucking haircut he wants. We got a couple here from Andrew Badal. What's going on, Andrew? I'm fearing facing OKC when we get to the finals. Boy, would I love to have that freaking problem, Andrew. I don't fear them. I fear my mental state, again, being the deserved but only officiated by the Globetrotter refs. All right, we got some ref stuff here. Look, I would love the opportunity. I really would. I think you would get, look, I think that, I think your best hope for that series, if it ever happens, is that, the playoffs are officiated a little bit differently than the regular season. I think that's your hope. So, we'll see, but got to get there first. And we got another one here from Andrew. People wonder why San Antonio has OKC's number. The Spurs are the only franchise the league sucks. Oh my God. The league likes San Antonio. There we go. We'll just leave it at that. Look, I think the Spurs have a lot of really good, gifted individual defenders. I think the Knicks have a lot of really good, gifted individual defenders. Look, I think they got a shitty whistle tonight. But do I think it's more shitty than the typical Oklahoma City Thunder game? No. And the Thunder know what they're doing. They know where to seek contact. They're very good at it. I'm sure they practice it. I'm sure it's like behind the scenes, you hear this constantly, that they're the smartest organization out there. Like I kind of alluded to this the last time I did the post game against the Thunder or after the Thunder game. I am sure that they dedicate like resources organizationally to teaching their players how to make it so that the referees need to blow the whistle. Sure they have, I'm sure they still study the rule book. I'm sure everything. And, they get to take advantage of it. It's unfortunate because I think, ultimately, and I've been thinking about this a lot after the Adam Silver quotes about the tanking and the new proposals and whatnot, and like just how we've gotten to this point where we're coming up with this sort of stuff to try to prevent teams from losing on purpose. And it just kind of goes back to the fact that, once upon a time, this was an entertainment product. All sports were an entertainment product. And then somewhere along the way, it became a competition among really, 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 really. Obviously, the athletes on the floor always competed. That goes without saying. But the competition level at again, I don't know when it happened. It happened gradually in the NBA, starting, I don't know, 70s, I don't know, 80s, whatever. And it kept getting more and more and more and more ingrained in front offices, in terms of front offices competing. And the NBA has been trying to deal with the fact that it is no longer an entertainment product in the way it once was. It is now a lot of different things. That's one of them. And this Thunder team exploiting the rules like they do is just frankly not great for the part of the NBA left that is still supposed to be an entertainment product. Because there's still a lot of people out there that, like, when they tune into a sporting event, they want to have a good time. And watching the Thunder, it's not a good time. Unless you're a Thunder fan, So, but look, the NBA has a lot of issues, and I don't have the wherewithal at 10:50 at night to go through them all right now. But, it's an unfortunate situation. I'll leave it at that. Next up from 54LE22. Not possible to win when they're calling the game like that. It is, but you got to kind of play perfect. That's why I kind of went through what I did to start the show. I apologize. I said this to my wife because I was driving earlier today and I was out of it. And she's like, "Are you okay to drive? Like, what's wrong with you?" And I realized at that moment I had not had a cup of coffee this morning. And I still did not have a cup of coffee. I may have a cup of coffee after this post game. We'll see. But maybe I should have had a cup of coffee before the post game so I could have been jumping up and down and screaming about the refs. I just don't have it in me. Mr. McBagels, what's going on? The broadcast crew kept a hate narrative going the whole game. They clearly haven't seen his recent stint, and his effort in the fourth shut them up. All right, that's a different way to look at it. I would argue that they have seen his recent stint. They put the stats up on the board, up on the TV, and like the numbers are better. Now, did they emphasize how much better he is shooting it? No, I don't think they did a good enough job of that, because like he really has like become a different player in terms of his field goal percentage from the floor. But to sit there and ignore because here's the thing. Oh, it sounds like I don't want to say that you're buying into the narrative, but like you are being a little bit more forgiving than I was of the fact that Cat had 4 field goals before the fourth quarter, 4 field goal attempts, whatever it was, 3 field goal attempts. It's a small number. And no, they did not get him the ball enough. No, he did not get enough touches. It's not like he had opportunities to shoot and he was passing out of them constantly. But to me, that buries the lead, which is that it comes down ultimately to working your ass off for position such that you either give yourself an opportunity to get the basketball from a pass from one of your teammates, or make it so that the defense needs to commit a second defender to you even before you get the ball. Now, Cat started doing that a little bit in the third quarter. He started doing it. And guess what? It worked like a charm. It was great. And then we didn't really see much of that the rest of the game. But that's the dirty work. So when you hear Josh Minot sitting up there after a game against his former teammate talking about, I played with Cat for 2 years. I know Cat. He doesn't like physicality. He's not talking about that Cat's weak sauce on the boards. He's not talking about that, like, you can, like, necessarily, like, push Cat around on even on the defensive end. He's talking about that. He's talking about you got to battle him to the point where he doesn't want to battle you back to get that position. And before anybody says the obvious thing, which is like, why do you want him to get position to engage in post-ups when post-ups aren't really his strength? I'm not asking him necessarily to post up, but he needs to at least get in a position to get the basketball to put some sort of pressure on the defense. He can only put so much pressure on the defense if he does not have the basketball. So look, this stuff is complicated, and it's not as if there is a obvious blueprint, which is what inspired my rant after the 4th game of the season, after the Bucks game, where I said the obvious thing, which is like, we've been having 10 years worth of conversations about how do you unlock Karl Anthony Towns. At some point, it's like, it's not on the coaches that keep that are unable to do this. This is a player that needs to be unlocked. And that's a tough place to be. That's a tough place to be. And it makes me think of Reggie Miller having the conversation about, like, oh, you got the Knicks, who's their number 2? Cat needs to be their number 2, yada, yada, yada. So yeah, let's do the stat of the game, Mark. Why not? So stat of the game, shout out to our guy, Jonah Kaufman. 9 field goal attempts for Karl Anthony Towns. 12th game of the season where Cat took fewer than 10 shots. Through the first 3 quarters, he had only taken 2 shots. I keep saying 3 or 4. It was 2. Excuse me. He took a single 3 late, which missed. And 10 times this season, we finished with less than with 1 or 0 attempted 3-point shots. 17 shots across the last 2 games. It's the 12th 2-game span with that few of shots in his entire career. Same number of points tonight as both McCall and Hart. So yeah. So look, again, it's complicated with Cat. It's always complicated with Cat. But it just, like, I'll go back to the thing I've been saying for over a year now. The theory of the case when you assembled this roster was that pairing Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson would give you a great enough offensive ceiling that you would be able to overcome whatever defensive deficits came with that pairing. And we are at a place now about to embark on the second playoff run for this core. And not only does it seem like those two do not elevate each other nearly often enough, but too often you're in a situation where, you know, Karl is just completely marginalized in certain games and often against certain types of teams that cover him a certain way. And again, we're not talking about the ceiling being a very good team. That's not the ceiling. That was not the goal when they made that trade. There was one goal in mind, which is why I have to sit here and be an asshole about this and be as harsh as I am. Because that's all we're talking about here. We're talking about winning the whole fucking thing. And nights like this are why I have pause that is possible, and it has nothing to do with the refs. Jack Corcoran, what's going on, Jack? 95-93, Cat dominating. Mike Brown picks then to sub in JB, and then the gang and the Knicks fall apart. Frustrating how little the team recognizes when he's cooking. I think Mike Brown was trying to give him a breather. I would push back pretty strongly on that because I had the exact same thought. Literally, I'm like, man, that's a little bit rough to take Cat out now. I think he was thinking, I need Cat's offense down the stretch. And so here, I'll pull it up right now. So Mitchell Robinson entered the game at 5:41. And then Cat came back in. I want to say it was less than a minute. I'll tell you right now. Came back in 29 seconds later. He sat for 29 seconds. He sat for literally one offensive possession. And the possession that he sat for was a Brunson 2-point shot that, if I'm like thinking of the right one, it was actually a decent shot that just missed. Now, from there, how many more attempts did Cat get? So here's what Cat did the rest of the game after he came in. He does not appear on the play-by-play until the missed 25, the missed three-pointer with 1:53 left. And then he committed a foul. That's it. So Cat not involved in the offense at all after he sat down. Now, you could still put that on Mike Brown. If you want to tell me that Mike Brown, should have read the room and just like Cat's going, I got to leave him in. I saw that as him trying to buy Cat a minute of rest, 2 minutes of rest, whatever, so he could have him as fresh as possible down the stretch. That's what I read it as. Obviously, it didn't work. Obviously, Cat didn't get the ball down the stretch. The offense went belly up down the stretch. So, you want to blame that on Brunson. You want to blame that on Brown. You want to blame that on Cat. You want to blame it on whoever. It didn't work. But I at least understood only because he came right back in the basketball game. Thanks, Jack. Deadwards, 10-0 run, gets it to 1. JB comes in, goes heavy ISO. Oh, so this is going to be a blame JB game. Got it. Turns the Knicks into spectators. I'm not one to usually slander. I love how people, whenever there's JB slander, I'm not only one to usually slander JB. I'm not. Anyway, but the game fell apart from there. I'd also like to add, these refs suck. Yeah, you're going to have to find another outlet for JB slander. Always complaints about it when it doesn't work. And how often does it work? And it's the exact same thing. Nothing different about it. Not a blessed thing. Sometimes the shots go down. Sometimes they don't. And I would encourage you to go back and rewatch some of those possessions. Yeah, there were a couple where it was heavy JB. But there were also possessions where other guys were getting involved and not pulling their weight. Fact of the matter is, last 5 minutes of a close game, guess what? Your best offense was the ball in Jalen Brunson's hands. but we don't like to remember that when the shots go down and it's an L in the standings. Hushu, what's going on? 40 free throws. Effing 40. I don't care. Shea's the most protected MVP I've ever seen. What a horrible watch this was. Our contending status is close to gone without Deuce. Yeah, it's a rough watch. Very protected MVP. I don't know what to tell you about Deuce. I hope he gets back. That's all I'll tell you. Thanks, Josh. David Crockett, what's going on, man? No blame here. David, you got to answer your email, by the way. No blame here, just an observation. If Alvarado is going to run the second unit, he must throw better passes. He is missing the strike zone by a lot. As usual, a sensible comment from Mr. Crockett. Completely agree with you. You nail it. Like, all this stuff that I've been talking about, this is all like, we've been down these roads before, and like, it's problems the Knicks know of and have identified, and I'm sure they're actively thinking of ways to work around. Alvarado coming in and kicking the ball around, man, that's really disconcerting. And that is not what they got him for, especially since I think you could argue that the biggest reason Tyler Kolek lost the job effectively is because he couldn't get the ball up the court. He couldn't take care of in that way. He couldn't take care of the ball. Guess what? Tyler Kolek at least throws passes on point. So, like, it honestly, watching those passes today, it yet again, how sad is this, made me think of Malcolm freaking Brogdon, that this team kicked the tires on that guy before the season, and then he retires, and we're all like, what were they thinking? Well, they clearly thought they needed a good backup point guard who could, execute the offense. Boy, oh boy, how I wish they wouldn't have kicked the tires on Campaign again. I know he disappeared after game 1 against Detroit, but that dude was so good last year. And guess what else he was really good at, other than just delivering the ball where it needed to be delivered, getting the ball up, hitting a big three, all those sorts of things, making sure that every minute of the game that he was running the show, guess who was front and center? Karl Anthony Towns. Thanks, David. Spence from the West, what's going on? Easy to Monday morning QB, but I seriously question bringing Deuce back this early in such an intense game. Could have eased him in and waited. I would guess there will be a lot of conversation about this. As far as the don't bring him back for this game because it's an intense game, shit could happen in any game against any opponent. That doesn't move me as much as my understanding of this injury is that you don't get better. It's like you get healthy enough to go out there on the court and play, but you're still at risk. And I don't know that there was ever no, you could tell me they should have waited until like the last weekend of the season, because that, seeding, their actions for most of the year basically evince the team that doesn't necessarily care about seeding. So, why start now? But I imagine there's going to be a lot of conversation about it. Depending on what we find out, they do have an award-winning medical team. There is no better medical team in the sport. So I don't know what you do with that. I don't know. Thanks, Spence. Riyadh, Fugazi. Yeah. Frustrating night on all fronts. Z Big Freeze. What's going on? Mike Brown really has no idea how to utilize an offensive center. Huh. That's a new one. Again, go and literally find any coach that has coached Karl Anthony Towns, and you're going to find people who said the exact same thing about the coach. Why can't this coach unlock Karl Anthony Towns? At some point, it's like, it's the definition of insanity to keep asking the same questions. what's the funniest part of it is that I think for as much criticism as Tibbs got last year for continuing to stick with Josh Hart in the starting five, and not changing the starting five when it started to go bad. I think you could argue that he got, the next on the blame totem pole. What the next rung down was that he didn't get enough out of Cat, which is kind of, funny to think about now. Thanks. True genius. All starters played better in the first quarter, except for Cat. Yeah, I thought Cat. It took him a while to get into the basketball game. And it was really unfortunate. I thought the starters came out with the right mentality. I really appreciated everything that they brought to the table. I thought it was very impressive that they fell down 9-2 right out of the gate, and then they came back to tie it. I think, I would actually, I might go so far as to say Brunson, Bridges, Hart, OG against like real competition this year. I don't know that there's been many, if any, games where I think the four of them played as well. And again, I sit here and I'll criticize OG for missing some shots at the rim. He played well. He played well. That's a deficit in his game. It's unfortunate. It's annoying, but he played well. Bridges played great. Hart played well. Brunson, despite what criticism some people may have about him down the stretch, played really well. I thought he really defended his ass off. So, yeah. Thanks, True Genius. Jason, what's going on, Jason? OKC plays extremely physical defense. 17 free throws versus 38 free throws. What the F? Yep. Not a fair fight. Thanks, Jason. Anthony Sixto, what's going on? Hard to be positive after these Tim Donaghy numbers, but great defense from Hart, Deuce on SGA. Playoff Macau loaded. Cat woke up in the second. That's a very fair and reasonable glass half full approach. I do. I think that. If you want to here, let's say this. You want to tell me that if the Knicks give this level of effort and are this engaged again in any Eastern Conference playoff series for every game that they play in any Eastern Conference playoff series, you want to tell me that they'll win that series? I will hear that argument. I still am probably a little bit too respectful of the Celtics. That's on me. That's the meeting I have to go to every week. But no, you want to tell me that like if they play like this in the Eastern Conference playoffs, they should be favored to make the finals? I'll hear that. I'll hear that argument. I don't know if I am making that argument myself, but I will hear that argument. Thanks, Anthony. Chris Carter, what's going on, Chris? This game is a great encapsulation of the pool analogy you laid out on the pod with Andrew. I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you, Mark. For anybody who didn't hear the pregame pod, I basically said like this Knicks season, it's like a nice, summer day where it's not too warm, but warm enough. And you get in the pool and you're like, man, this pool would be perfect if it's like 5 or 6 degrees hotter. And yet because of those 5-6 degrees, it like you're in there and you're like, man, I'm not having fun. This is too cold. I'd like to get out now. That's kind of the Knicks. It feels like they're just a few degrees away from being a like full-on, full-fledged, like no doubt about it, like tier 1 title contender. And the point that I was trying to make, that I don't know if I made it well, is like there's just always some stuff that can like multiple things that could go wrong. Honestly, the thing that I thought about tonight, as I'm getting freaking tissue from my eyebrow, is the stat that I read the other day on that pregame pod, about how the Celtics are, hold on, no, that's not it. What the hell was the exact number? They're undefeated when they shoot above like a certain percentage from three this season. They're 22-0. I don't even know what they shot from three tonight. I could look it up. But coming into tonight, they were 22-0 and they shot at least 40% from three. And they were 31-2 when they shot at least 37% from three. Where it's like, and my point was that there's only one thing that could go wrong for the Celtics, and they don't make threes. For the Knicks shot 43% from three tonight, and yet they lost. Now, you want to tell me it's because of the refs? Okay, fine. Tell me it's because of the refs, but like, I'm just like pulling it up right now. The Knicks, this is their 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th loss this season when they have shot at least 40% from three. They are now 24-6. Now, 24-6 is still really good, but it's not undefeated. And then you go a little bit further down, and they got some more losses when it's like just under 40%, because there are other things that could go wrong for them. Now tonight, I would say it was the turnovers, self-inflicted wounds, missing a couple of twos that they should make. And then, again, I thought that the Towns' performance for most of the first three quarters. And the refs, obviously the refs. Goes without saying, the refs. Thanks, Chris. Danishevsky, what's going on, man? OKC is awesome. Yes. A nearly perfectly constructed team. Pretty much, yeah. They don't need help from the refs. No. Just some absurd stuff. The Deuce thing absolutely freaking sucks. Yep, Kev, you nailed it. Zero disagreement. Couldn't have put it better myself. Yeah, amen. Barry Groveman, thanks for the contribution, Barry. Appreciate you. Thanks for another contribution, Barry. Hopefully you're... Oh, here we go. Celtics beat OKC and the Hornets. Knicks lay eggs. I don't think the Knicks laid an egg tonight. I know they, literally egg 0 as in 0 wins. Sure. I don't think the Knicks laid an egg tonight. I thought the Knicks, I was like, any Knicks fan should be proud of their effort. And like, even though I'm not getting worked up about the refs, to look at the free throw discrepancy and then look at the final score and be like, wait a minute, we lost by 11 points and they shot how many more free throws than us? If you want to lose your mind about that, again, I kind of tonight, I mean this when I say this, I really wish I had it in me to lose my mind about this tonight, because it deserves more than I brought to the table. So that's my bad. Because it really is egregious. I always tend to focus on controlling the controllables. And I thought that there were 19 turnovers is, that's controllable number one. But I also like to know that like everybody left it all out there on the court. And almost everybody left it all out there on the court tonight for all 48 minutes, but not everybody. Celtics, they kind of laid, or excuse me, the Hornets, they kind of laid an egg. Thanks, Barry. Hush with another one. Cat getting iced out the last 4 minutes. Subbed out when he brought us back. I just don't get it, man. Just a maddening team. I really want to believe. I can't. I mean, I talked about the sub out. In terms of him getting iced out, he didn't get the ball. I would have to go back and watch those possessions. There were a number of possessions, and again, freaking Reggie Miller, I had to hear him tell me about it, where he didn't touch the ball. And they didn't end up with a great shot. It can't happen. It can't happen. You should not have any offensive possessions down the stretch of a close game against a defense this good where Karl Anthony Towns does not touch the ball. It is not all on him. Despite everything I said before about how every coach has had this challenge of unlocking Cat, it is not all on Cat. It is partially on all of these coaches. It was on Tibbs twice. It was on freaking Chris French. It was on I don't know how many other coaches he even had in Minnesota, but he had several other coaches. So on all of those coaches get some piece of the blame pie. Cat gets a piece of the blame pie. His point guard, in this case, Jalen Brunson, gets a piece of the blame pie, despite my defense of Jalen Brunson a few minutes ago. Everybody gets pieces of the blame pie. Whether you want to give it a third, 40, or 50, 25, 25. Like my larger point to zoom out is that we've been having these conversations for 2 years as Knicks fans, and they were having these conversations for 9 years or wherever the fuck long he was in Minnesota, in Timberwolves land. It's always the same conversation. It's always the same shit. Whose fault is it? Why didn't he get enough of a look? Why isn't he more present? And that is just, it is exhausting. It is exhausting. Forget who's at fault. It's just exhausting as a fan. It's exhausting as a content creator. I'm sure it's exhausting to some extent if you're in the locker room. And I'm sure it's exhausting if you're Karl Anthony Towns. So, if anybody out there has the right answer to these questions, God bless. Frank Miranda, what's going on? What's up, Mac? It's your boy Frank from Patreon. Oh, I know it. This team will not get to where they want to go unless they get a real second shot creator. McCall is not good enough. Oh, come on. You're with the McCall Slater tonight? He was great. Frank, I'm going to have to reprimand you during our next town hall. It's going to be a public flogging. Cat showed some real lapses on defense. Well, you don't say. Yeah, man. I mean, look, what did J-Dub finish with tonight? He had, what did he go scoreless in the first? And then I think they said he had 20 plus. Yeah, he's finished with 22 on 11 shots. Now, free throws, obviously. But J-Dub is like very much your traditional second shot creator. And hey, for a lot of this game, SGA wasn't, they defended the hell out of him, and he also was a little bit below his standards because, again, what are his standards? His standards are like my hand. I'm not very tall, but like my hand doesn't go up far enough for SGA's standards. Doesn't matter how well you defend him. You get it every shot. The defense, I thought the best defense the Knicks played on him all night was on a fadeaway long 2 that he hit over Josh Hart. It was exceptional defense. Can't play better defense. Didn't matter. Ball hit the bottom of the net. But that wasn't SGA for a lot of this game. And J-Dub was like, all good. I got it. Anyway. So we got this stat from, I'll see you at the town hall, Frank, from New York Basketball Twitter account, best Twitter account on the internet. Josh Hart is 16 for his last 30 from 3. He just passed Evan Fournier, Steve Novak, Kristaps Porzingis, and Dante DiVincenzo in Knicks threes with 284. Good for top 25 all time. I'm not going to take any Josh Hart victory laps tonight because it always comes down to the same thing. It comes down to his confidence. And all this stretch reminds us of is that when Josh Hart is a confident ball player, he is one of the 50 best basketball players on the planet. When he's not a confident ball player, he could be detrimental to certain things that you want to do against certain teams. But I just hope the confidence maintains. And again, 16 for his last 20 from 3. That's like, I asked this not even facetiously. How many stretches of his career has Steph Curry had where he's made 16 of 20 from 3? Again, I'm not comparing the two players, needless to say, but I'm just like, it makes you wonder, right? A confident Josh Hart is a dangerous player. And he was really good tonight. Oscar, what's going on, Oscar? Gutted for number 2. Deuce, obviously. Be on the flight to New York tomorrow, though. Well, have a safe flight. Don't forget, message me with any further food recommendations that you need or anything else. I don't know that I'm good as far as recommending stuff from in New York City these days because I don't live there anymore. But always good to recommend a pizza place or a good bar. Thanks, Oscar. Guy Huber, then, what's going on? The JB Hart 2-man game with OG getting his equals Cat. You're on your own every game, buddy. He's third, fourth option right now. Swap Hart with Cat on offense more, but alas. It's not that simple. It's not that simple. Why is Josh Hart in the 2-man game? It's not just because of how he's being guarded. He's a better screen setter than Cat. He's a better ball handler than Cat. He's a better passer than Cat. And with the defenders, and by the way, if you don't think that teams would employ the same defense in which they're sticking a physical wing defender, if they have it, on Cat, regardless of whether Josh Hart is on the floor or not, then you haven't been paying attention. Because guess what? Teams did this shit with Mohamed Diawara, and guess what teams are doing now? They're doing this shit with Jose Alvarado. It's the same shit. Whoever the least threatening player is. We talked about it. We spitballed it, speculated it towards the end of last year when it was like, all right, this thing is really getting nasty here. Might he, ditch the Hart starting lineup and go with Deuce? And I think Benji was the first one to say it. Watch what teams will do. They will put their 5 on OG. Because teams are, it's not about who you are putting your 5 on. It's not about the lack of a threat there. It's about, we want the switchability for the Brunson Cat pick and roll. That's what it's all about. And where I blame the Knicks is, and many have said this, just because you're going to get the switch doesn't mean you don't go to it. Doesn't mean there isn't other good stuff that can come from it. But and here's the rub, that would require those two players having real, genuine chemistry and a real kinship and a real partnership. And we are now, they played 100 games last season? 75. We're 175 games into this partnership, minus whatever games they've missed due to injury. Go watch this game, watch the Hornets game, watch any game from the last week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then go back and watch the first week, 2 weeks. They were teammates. And tell me you could find any discernible difference between the kinship displayed with Brunson and Jalen and Karl Anthony Towns. Because I don't see it. I just don't think it's, I just don't think they elevate each other's games. And there's blame to go around on both parties and, as usual, the coach. Bill Peterfriend, this team is so frustrating. Yes. Some good stuff tonight, though. But yes, they are frustrating. Thanks, Bill. Chris Dayton. Man, I'm sorry, brother. I know you're hurting about this as much as anyone. Looks like my worst fear came true. This team, at its best, can still compete with the top of the NBA, but only at its best against a healthy OKC. Look, let's keep the faith. I'm gonna keep the faith on Deuce, and because you never know, crazier things have happened, but obviously it doesn't look good. Thanks, Chris. Anthony Perino, what's going on, Anthony? Hard to even watch after Deuce. Completely agree with you. It's like, even if they'd won this game, it would have put a damper on the night. Devastating. Not saying we can't still compete, but my confidence in this team took a huge hit when I saw his reaction. He's such an important player and he's such a good player. Like, obviously, yes. But in terms of his skill set and what he brings, like, They don't have any. I'm thinking of Moneyball. They don't have anyone that could replace Deuce McBride. They don't have any one player that could replace Deuce McBride, but they can come close to replacing him in the aggregate between Clarkson, between Shamet, between Mohamed Diawara. Ideally, Jose Alvarado would inject his name into that conversation. Like, will they? I don't know. Can they? I don't think it's impossible. But again, which is why I said it's for me, it's about Deuce. It's not about the team. My heart sinks for Deuce. Thanks, Anthony. Dan Hidalgo, what's going on, Dan? The Thunder are the only team you have a hard time picturing the Knicks beating 4 out of 7 times, but I'd love to find out. I still think the Knicks can play better. They absolutely could play better. I would, if I'm power ranking Knicks opponents, I would put the Thunder at number 1. I put Boston at number 2. I don't know who I put at number 3. I'd have to think about that for a while. Thanks, Dan. Wasuba? Hope I got that right. Once we went back to playing through Brunson after Cat, fourth quarter flurry, the energy just wasn't the same. Not sure if it's a lineup thing, but I thought that we had the game won when it was 90-92. I want to go back and rewatch the possessions. I do. Look, I'm not disagreeing with what everybody has said about how the feel of the game changed at that point, but like, I do think you need to go back and actually watch the possessions and what happened. Like, there was one possession that stuck out in my mind where Brunson had the ball a lot, but I'm not like, I'm just never going to blame Jalen Brunson for a loss because I feel like, oh, you didn't do your job in crunch time. It didn't happen tonight. Not just for him. It didn't happen for anybody. But I want to go back and rewatch it. But they had it going, and then I agree with you. It does seem like the vibes kind of subsided. True Genius felt better about this game through 3 1/4 quarters than the last game. I felt I probably downplayed it on the post game. The Hornets game, this very rarely happens. The Hornets game was one of those games where I was mostly okay for during the post game. I really didn't like watching the game. And the more I thought about the game over the last few days, the more down I got on their performance in that game. That was really an underwhelming performance. This was a good performance for much of this game. And it was really hard to complain about too much for a lot of this game. So, some silver lining, right? Another one from Saba. Hope I got that right. That said, I felt pretty good about tonight despite its challenges, hoping we get good news regarding Deuce. Yeah. All of us. We hope that. Jay Vertical, what's going on? Jay Vertical, thanks for the contribution. The Knicks need a legit secondary ball handler next to JB. Just has to do so much all night long. Lack of aggression down the stretch among other starters. Alarming. New York right there with the best in the league. It's interesting. Here's an interesting conversation because so much of the focus on the Towns trade was pairing JB with another subpar defender. It was, obviously moving DiVincenzo. It was inheriting, the Towns conundrum and his salary. I actually think you have to you go because Julius Randle for all of his imperfections, and trust me, it's been a very imperfect last few months in Minnesota for Karl-Anthony Towns, for Julius Randle. He was a traditional number 2 in a lot of ways, I wonder if they actually had the internal conversation at any point, like, do we need a traditional number 2? Because they had to know that Cat was not. And I wonder if they counted on Mikal becoming more of that. That is a question that I would ask. And I would ask it specifically because knowing that, well, if I was a betting man, I would bet that there was not consensus within the front office about the Mikal Bridges trade. And I wonder if the argument amongst those in favor of it was like, yes, opportunity costs, yada, 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 but we think maybe this guy, like, the best is yet to come. We think maybe what we saw in Brooklyn was like that he's more of that, but more efficient. And he'll access that plus all the stuff that made him a great team player, moving forward. I don't know. I am curious though, if they had those conversations and what those conversations sounded like. But yeah. Thanks, Jay Vertical. Anthony Sixto with another one. Thank you again, Anthony. Regarding Cat, spotted multiple times the last few weeks. The ball handler looked for Cat and be visibly exasperated because Cat is walking to a spot back to the ball. There is a baseline lack of urgency. Well, you said it, not me. Not if anybody's waiting for an argument, not gonna get it. Sorry. Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate that one. Sergio Escoval. So we had good cap, bad cat for 50 games, then 20 of good cat, bad cap, and now back again. So can we get both of them on for a month? Is that too much to ask for? When have you had a sustained stretch of play where the two of them were both like, well, that's unfair. That's wrong of me to say. They were both really good for large stretches of last season. I don't know that they were ever good in a way where it was like they were actively elevating each other in the game at the same time. Now, look, maybe that's too high of a bar. SGA and J-Dub, I don't think those guys like elevate each other. They're extremely hesitant, OKC, to run, like, not hesitant, but like they don't run a ton of SGA J-Dub pick and roll. They don't need to, frankly. But those guys could absolutely both like do their thing on the court at the same time, and they do often, a lot. And they're great at like watching each other's or watching each other's backs and all that. This Knicks season, you're absolutely right. They haven't really been good often at the same time. And I don't know what that says. Maybe it doesn't say anything. Is it too much to ask for? It might be. Sadly. Thanks, Sergio. Joseph Zicola. What's going on, Joseph? How you doing, man? Thank you. Very generous contribution from me. Appreciate it. This is the best Knicks team since 92-93. That's a hot take. Put 92-93 above 93-94. We'll have to have a longer conversation about that one at some point. But we are not far and away the best team in the conference, bar one. We are one of many, and we are wildly inconsistent. No blame. I just think that we need to accept that the finals is a long shot. Man, if you're getting me to push back on negativity, you must be being pretty negative. I think it's unfair to call the finals a long shot for the Knicks. I think that's unfair. I think that is too negative. I would say the Knicks, A long shot. It's not a long shot. I think Boston is too heavy a favorite in terms of just the betting odds. I think they're like, what are they, plus 170 or something, plus 160, plus 170, something. They're actually, honestly, at this point, they may go down to like plus 150. But whatever, that's the heavy favorite, and everybody else is whatever they are, plus 350, plus 400. I think Detroit went down to like plus 600 or something. I don't think that they're a long shot. I think I'll say this. I think they'll win the first round. I think if they get past the second round, I think they'll make it the finals. I think Boston should probably be favored over them at this point. I think they could beat Boston. I don't think it would take a miracle to beat Boston. I think if they go out there and they play as well as they're capable of playing for 7 games, and I think it will probably take 7 games, I think they will beat Boston. But, like projecting forward, I don't know when would that series start? In like a month? I'll just tell you right now, I don't know who I would pick in the series. But long shot seems a little harsh. They've earned to be something more than a long shot. Are they favorites? I don't know if they're favorites, but long shot's too harsh. El Coriano, what's going on? How many on OKC's bench could start for a contender? How many Knicks? The depth is concerning. Yeah, I mean, look, OKC is an anomaly. What they've built is the envy of every team in the league. I think the Knicks' depth is fine. Obviously, if Deuce is missing for any sustained period of time, it takes a hit. But look, they've overcome the loss of Deuce for the last 2 months, even though it has hurt. I'll just say this. If the Knicks don't make the finals, I don't think it's going to be because of their depth. I'll just say that right now. Thanks, El Coriano. And then we got 3 from Robert Cross to close us out. Boy, oh boy. Wonder how Robert's feeling right now. First time, long time. It's your boy, John. To be clear, I hate OKC and their brand of basketball. You have made that clear, Robert. Thank you. Next up, from Robert. First time, long time. It's your boy, John. We talked about it being a bad fit from the jump, then exacerbated it with 5 first-round picks for Bridges' structural flaw. The Bridges hate is going to fall on some deaf ears tonight, Robert. Bridges was awesome. Was he as awesome as Giannis Antetokounmpo would have been if he was healthy and on the Knicks right now, which he might be if they hadn't given up the picks for Bridges? No, but there are so many, like to say that if not A, then B, I can't go there. Because there's so much other shit that could have happened, would have happened. Is there one possible alternate universe where no Bridges means Giannis is a Knick right now? Absolutely. Absolutely. What percentage chance is that? I don't know. Is it any higher or lower than the current percentage chance that the Knicks will make the finals as currently constituted? I don't know. Thanks, Robert. And one more from Robert. First time, long time. It's your boy, John. If Deuce is out for a considerable length of time, I want to see Kolek. Listen, sure. Why not? I'm not going to object to that. I really have not liked what we've seen from Alvarado. Don't think he's given them enough. You want to give Kolek a run before the end of the season? See what he's got left in the tank? By all means, buddy. I'm here for it. Okay. Is that it? I think that's it. There we go. All right. Well, pretty reasonable post game, I would say. Let us hope the Knicks get back on their winning ways. I think, when do they play again? They play Tuesday night. Houston's going to be a tough game. We'll see how that one goes. I'll be back, obviously, on the post game for that. I think should be doing a watch along on Tuesday. Don't quote me on that. It's going to be either Tuesday or, the next game is against Memphis. So yeah, I'll probably do a watch along on Tuesday. Don't forget, help the show out. give it a like, hit that like button. Obviously, subscribe, rate, review, follow at Knicks Film School, SKOOL. Do that. All the good stuff you could do to help support your favorite content creators or just content creators that you like to support. What do we got coming up? We got me and Jeremy. We'll go live tomorrow to digest a disappointing end to the week. And then, yeah, that's it for now. All right. Thanks to Mark for being on the ones and twos. I'll be back with more fun and games before you know it. Peace out.